And now to rising tension between US and Venezuela. Now, as tension escalates over potential military action by the United States, Venezuela has complained to OPEC about US attempts to seize its oil. The Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeated calls for peace and pledged absolute loyalty to his people at a rally attended by thousands in Caracas. The rally reportedly came as US President Donald Trump met with his national security team to discuss the next steps on Venezuela. Addressing a crowd waving Venezuelan flags outside the Miraflores Palace, President Maduro said his country wants peace, but, quote, only a peace with sovereignty, equality, and freedom, end quote, and not a slave peace, nor the peace of colonies. The Trump administration has been mounting pressure on Venezuela over illicit drug trade and human rights abuse, with a military buildup in the Caribbean in what it calls an anti-drug trafficking campaign. Venezuela says actions by the US are aimed at toppling President Maduro's government and against international laws. Well, let's talk more on this as we bring in our guest. He is Kaj Ononuju. He's a global affairs analyst. He joins us virtually. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let me just start by getting your thoughts on the escalating tension between the US and Venezuela.
Well, you would say Venezuela, it's America's near abroad, and geographically within America's sphere of influence, what the Monroe Doctrine calls the area surrounding a superpower. And this crisis has been one, due to the absence of free and fair elections. That's where they started from. So the last election, which was seen to have been won by the opposition, but of course Maduro did what he did and announced himself. And several people have tried to broker peace talks between Mr. Maduro's government and the opposition, but it seems not to be going well. The last was the Sunday's telephone talk between President Trump and President Maduro, at which the United States offered Maduro peaceful passage for himself and his family. But Mr. Maduro was asking for a global amnesty for himself and all members of his administration. That Trump could not guarantee. And so the Sunday's talks, which happened, they didn't conclude anything. And afterwards, as you can see, America has declared right now a no-fly zone over Venezuela, which in itself activates an act of war.
Well, Mr. Ononuju, if I may quickly comment,
we don't see anybody.
There is now a second boat strike in Venezuela that is generating controversy about who gave the order that those on board should be killed, survivors on board should be killed. Are things slipping out of control?
Yes, it is. When things go this bad, anything can happen. Anybody can commit this kind of actions. If the people you suspect deny it, then it could be a false flag operation. And we do not know because nobody has yet claimed responsibility. But then what we know is tensions are rising within that circumference. And the US is moving and advising everybody that there's a war on between the Trump administration and Mr. Maduro's government in Venezuela. I don't think it's going to relent. Mr. Maduro has shouted to the rest of the world that Trump wants to take its energy resources, but then we know there's no way the United States will go there without collaborating with members of the Venezuelan community. So if the society's collaborators are members of the opposition, as we expect it to be, they will still be there to act in the best interest of Venezuela. Whatever that is, it didn't start today.
we've seen how defiant Maduro has been. I'm sure that the Trump administration didn't expect that even with the threat, he talks about potential military action, that he would be this defiant. I'm really wondering if you think that, Maduro will accept exile. Would he could be rattled to accept exile overseas, and what could change the equation in Caracas?
Well, you call it defiance. What he's saying that he doesn't want to accept, as you say, defiance. He doesn't want to accept a slave's peace. He doesn't want to accept peace of the colonies. And what that means is that the negotiations or the offers that had been made to him does not seem to meet his expectations and those of the people around him. He's not talking alone. Trump promised that for him, his wife, and members of his family, yes, they can guarantee a safe passage. But he's saying he wants an enlarged protection, grouping that includes members of his cabinet and everything. And so others have tried, as I said earlier, by trying to organize peace talks outside Venezuela between the Venezuelan government and the opposition, which is actually where this crisis started, but that has not come. And what you now call Venezuela's words and what he said is that he is not accepting of the offer made him so far, which centers around, according to him, he refers to it as peace of the colonies. And you know what peace of the colonies are. It's when the colonial master tells you what he thinks is okay for you. You don't negotiate with him. It's just they give you, some standards that you must meet. And that's what he's saying. He would not accept those peace of the colonies, which he refers to as slave peace. And that's where it is. So that simply tells you that negotiations did not bring fruition, and what Mr. Maduro was offered didn't seem to meet his idea. And because he doesn't want to go alone, he negotiates and insists that members of his administration are also protected in any amnesty, him and his family.
Well, interesting times ahead. We'll see how this plays out, whether there is a diplomatic solution or it will be a military solution. Thank you so much for your time. As we always, catch on Onuju. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.